Well, good evening. It is Monday once again, August 12th, 2024. Welcome to episode 75 of Porterhouse and Teal Live. And before we get going tonight, if you would just let us know how we sound, because I don't want a repeat of what we had last week. So if you can hear us 5x5, just give us something in the comments, and that way we'll know we're good. But I never really thought, man, we'd be doing 75 of these, and now we're just about, thanks, Gaines. We are just about 25 to go to get to 100. Who would have thought, huh, Rebecca?
Who would have thought?
Yeah, no, I honestly never really thought that this would be something that I'd be interested in doing, but I honestly do enjoy coming on and just, sharing some thoughts and talking about some things that are happening around here and on our homestead, and interacting with you guys, talking about maybe some things that are happening currently and just discussing some issues. Tonight.
Good evening, Gaines girl.
Yeah. Thanks for the 5x5, you guys. So tonight's episode, I thought I would kind of have it more or less focused kind of on information and media and how that's all been received, and propaganda, because it's really easy to come on and, just regurgitate what somebody else has written. But I also think it's important to take a look and see, the information that we're getting and how we're receiving it, and, really think about it from that standpoint. So that's what we'll be tackling in the main event. But the weekly poll we'll also be getting to. We'll do a homestead update. And I wanted to just share a comment that I had from a recent video of mine, which kind of made me laugh. And we'll also do liberal and conservative, clip of the week, and the main topic. But how are you doing this evening, Rebecca?
I am doing good. Our oldest daughter has at least temporarily moved closer to home, so that's great. We got to see her, and we haven't seen her for over a year, I think. So that was really nice to have her come home and visit. And I think she said she's going to be here for at least two months. And they do have an opening, and if she likes it, possibly stay. So that will be really sweet.
Yeah, it's pretty cool, having your family closer to you. She's been, throughout the last 10 or more years, she's been doing work elsewhere. And then she was doing her studies, trying to become a veterinarian and stuff. And so she's doing that equine medicine with horses. And she found a job closer to home. And so that puts her just north of us here. And so that'll be nice to be able to, spend a little bit more time with her.
Yeah. And she's also specialized. So she's does internal medicine for horses, and really likes it.
Yeah. Good evening, London, and good evening, Atrides. How are you doing, along with Gaines girl? Yeah, yes, it's nice to see you guys.
Good evening to all. London, I still have to add a fragrance to the deodorant, but I plan on doing that soon.
Yeah.
Yes.
What are you planning on adding to it?
Well, his wife said she'd like it to be more girly.
So what kind of a fragrance?
That could be like lavender. Or
I
haven't chose a fragrance yet.
But... Yeah, or just reach out to us, if there's a preference or something like that. That might be the better way to go with it. But that's glad. Glad you're going to be working on that. And like I say, just reach out to us.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things we've kind of been doing is trying to get a little bit earlier to bed. So I don't know how long we're going to go tonight. It's actually been something that as you get older, man, you just don't sleep as many.
Awesome.
You just don't sleep as many hours. And so, we've been trying to focus on getting a little bit, horizontal a little bit earlier. So I think that's probably where we'll go with things tonight again, but we've been trying to get flat and in the room when it's dark and quiet about 8:30 p.m. So that allows us to get about 7.5 hours of sleep. She generally gets about 7.5 to 8. I generally get about 7.5 if I'm, getting as much as I usually get. But as soon as it's light, I can't stay in the bed. So, but it's definitely helped, and we've also been kind of feeling better with everything else too, dietary wise too, right? How are you feeling about it?
Good. As far as those fragrances that are not a musk or on the manly side, you have to convince him. Because every time I choose, I love the lavender one as well, but every time I choose something that's a little more girly or fruity, that's what he tells me. He goes, that's too fruity. Nobody wants that. So get after him. Let him know that, yes, there are other people besides him.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I guess around here, it seems like we're kind of coming up to the end of our summer harvest, seemingly. I don't know if we're going to be getting a whole lot more to can and do stuff like that, but we're starting to see a lot of that stuff die back. So I'm going to have to go out there and start working my beds a little bit differently than what I've been doing and preparing them for fall. But you've been doing some harvesting and drying. So why don't you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I just dehydrated some figs. So he's got a nice size container of sweet little treats.
Yeah. I love figs. They're great, high in fiber. They're a great resource. It's something that comes back every year, perennial, that just keeps producing. So these are trees that I actually got from my dad, and he potted them up for our children, and then they didn't really have a place to put them. So they grow here now, but they've been producing good, and we just harvested all that stuff. So, London says, totally jealous. 7 hours sounds wonderful. Yeah. I don't know, man. I think that as people age, from what I understand, they just don't sleep as much. There's not as much of a need to get sleep. And I think it's really important to try to focus on getting as much as you possibly can. And since we're retired, there's no excuse. It isn't like we don't have to, we have to get up to actually go to work. But I think part of our problem sometimes is that we wait, we stay up in bed too late. And, like I say, when the sun comes up, I got to get up. So I don't generally get 7.5 hours of sleep, but that's a very important aspect of one's health, is just, that restorative rest. It's so necessary. So I'm going to try to stick with it and see how that goes. But
I'm a much better sleeper than you.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, Skane says she only sleeps, 4 to 5 hours. And I think that's pretty typical for a lot of people. It's just, I don't know, but I think it's also not as good for you, your body. So I'm trying to feel a little bit better and a little bit more well-rested. So London says, after 2 back surgeries, I can't sleep that long. I've been thinking about naps. So yeah, right on. Yeah. One of the things that I'm pretty stoked about is I got a free race entry. It's about a $300 race that I'm going to be running. And I got a free entry to that because I'm a firefighter, and Healdsburg Running Company down in Sonoma County had wanted to show some love to the firefighters. And they said, hey, if you're a firefighter, show us the proof and you get to run this race for free. So I'm going to be running a race in February. It's 100 miles and down around Lake Sonoma, which is super cool because my mom lives down in that area. And so I'll be able to go down and, spend some time with her. She'll probably be able to come down and be part of the race and stuff like that. But yeah, I'm also going to be running a race this weekend, 50 kilometers down in the Bay Area. And I'll be going down to see my mom here on Friday. So that'll be pretty nice.
So you have to understand, my car's in the shop getting repaired.
Mm-hmm.
We've had some plumbing problems. So we had a plumber out here now for a couple of days. And Eric comes in and goes, hey, I just signed up for another race. I'm like, wait a minute.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'm kind of good for that. She has to shovel funds around because of my inability to communicate the expenditures as well as I should. But yeah, no, I'm feeling good, man. I've been training. It just feels good getting back into shape. And I'm pretty pumped on it. It's been a challenge to try to balance, my activities elsewhere, doing what I do, plus coming here and making sure that everything's taken care of around the property. So sometimes I feel as though some of the things around here are being neglected a little bit more than I would like. But, I have to balance those interests that I have with, making sure that I'm going out and doing the things that I want to do, as well as the things that I need to do. So,
yeah, I went to the gym with him just a couple days ago.
Mhm.
Was it yesterday? And I had to tell him I almost fell off the treadmill. It's great to be young, but there was a guy who was standing in front of the mirror, and he was turning sideways and flexing and taking selfies of himself. And I just started cracking up because he kept doing it, and it was just hysterical to watch it. It's great to be young, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. Or stuck on yourself.
Yeah.
One of the two. Yeah. I just wanted to mention too, for those that want to check us out on the rebroadcast, and you're just wanting to listen to the broadcast, check us out on Spotify, Porterhouse and Teal Live. You'll be able to listen to the episode or any of the episodes that we have recorded, without commercials. So that's, if that's something that interests you, go check us out there for sure. But let's jump into this quote from Liberal or Conservative. So this is a quote, and I want you to tell me, Rebecca, if it's a liberal or conservative after I read it, and then I will reveal who that person is. It says, "The media is the most powerful entity on earth. They have the power to make the innocent guilty and to make the guilty innocent. And that's the power, because they control the minds of the masses." Is that a liberal or a conservative, in your opinion?
Oh, gosh. I would say that was a conservative who said that.
Yeah, I probably would have said that as well. But I don't even know what this person's political leanings are. Some might think he's a leftist, and, he may very well be. I don't think he was actually very political. I think he was pretty apolitical. And this quote came from Malcolm X. I think he hated both political parties, left and right. I think the only thing that he was an advocate for was the black race. And I don't know what his political leanings are, quite honestly, but you could certainly look at this type of a quote and think potentially that came from a conservative. It's something that, if you think about it, it's very true, because they do have the power to make the innocent guilty and to make the guilty innocent, because they do control the minds of the masses. And that's kind of what I wanted to talk about tonight, as we move into the main topic, but just kind of ruminate on that, which I guess it aligns well with the weekly poll that I put out. And the weekly poll that I put out for this past week, I had 184 people who responded. And what the question was, is I asked, what is your most trusted news source for staying informed of current events? And it really broke down in this way, which is not very surprising to me. I think it's probably not surprising to a lot of people how it broke down. But coming in at the top was social media. 32% of the people voted for social media. And that would include things like X, formerly known as Twitter, TikTok, Facebook, YouTube, etc. So that's where the majority of people, at least the sample of people that responded to this, are getting their information, which to me isn't very unsurprising. I think if I were to ask people who maybe were leaning liberal, I don't know if I would get the same result, but this is who responded. And they said 32% social media. The next was independent media. And that would be things such as, various podcasters, maybe like the Tucker Carlson Network, maybe Patrick Bet-David, or any of your other podcasters that are out there giving you kind of a synopsis of what's taken place. and then giving you some commentary. And so independent media came in second with 29%. And then third was legacy media, which was, oh, excuse me, I've got that wrong. Third was none of the above. And I actually don't have the number with me as far as the percentage, but none of the above was something that people thought would, was even before the other two. And the other two coming in below that was cable media, or excuse me, legacy media at 10%, and then cable media at 5%, which to me is kind of surprising. Cable media would include things like CNN, Fox, MSNBC, OAN, Newsmax, et cetera. And that actually came in below legacy media, or what used to be called mainstream media. I don't believe it to be too mainstream anymore, but that used to be the only place that people could get information was mainstream media, those three networks, essentially. And they've completely fallen off as far as the trust that people have in those institutions. And I think that that's something that they're going to see moving forward for a lot of people. There's still a tremendous amount of people that actually, get their news source from that. But I think that that number is starting to trend in the opposite direction. And this poll is representative of that, I believe. But yeah, I'm glad you enjoyed the poll, London. And Skane says she answered social media.
I'm also glad that you enjoyed the deodorant, London.
Yeah.
I also, before you get into anything, I got a nice review from Nicole Sauce, and she liked the coffee soap.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, cool. That was awesome. So social media, that's where I get my news. That's where I tend to have things come into me. And then what I do from there is I kind of go, and if it's something of interest, then I verify it in some other way. But I don't really consume the other forms of media, at least not going there to actually find out what's really going on, because they are so biased and they have proven themselves to be, dishonorable. They haven't really been able to provide the information that I think people are looking for, which is just an unbiased version of what's actually taking place. But we'll talk a little bit more about that here as we move on. But Q&A, I wanted to just talk about this briefly. And I don't know if you guys have noticed, but I haven't really been putting out much in the way of shorts. And I kind of scaled that back for a couple of reasons. One being just I wanted to not have to feel as though I'm putting out that kind of content. It just puts an additional load on what I'm trying to produce from the channel. I'm more focused on being able to come on and do these live streams and have that interaction. I'm more focused on doing the long form content that I do, post once a week. And then if I can put a short out, maybe once a week, or I'm not even going to hold myself to that. And the reason why I've kind of pulled back on that is because a lot of the times the interaction that you get from those shorts, yes, it's going to bring more eyes to your channel. Yes, you're going to potentially get more people interested in you, but a lot of times it's not always the right type of interest as far as the attention span for the people that you're trying to attract. And so I pulled back from that. But I recently posted a short that was it was kind of almost a very simple short, but it was just a bucket that I used to trap mice in. And it was a 15-second video. I didn't really think it was going to do much, but I mean, this video is actually continually getting more and more views. It's up to about 382,000 views as of just before this broadcast. And it's getting about 4,000 views an hour, anywhere from 1,000 to 4,000 views an hour. And it's kind of fun, but the thing that I don't like about it, quite honestly, is just the fact that I like to be able to respond to all of my comments. I like that interaction, and a lot of the interaction that you get from shorts, sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes it's the wrong kind of interaction. They're just people in the comment section that are looking to just have something to say. And, they're kind of like keyboard warriors trying to say, hey, do it this way, or, this is wrong, or, for whatever reason, they just come on and start complaining about shit rather than, and I just don't want to have to deal with that. So I've kind of pulled back from doing these shorts, but I had somebody respond, and it was kind of summarizes how I feel about it, but it just kind of made me chuckle. And what he had said in the comment section, he said, love how everyone here has a better way to do it, even if they have no idea what they're talking about. And again, that's totally true. I run several of these buckets around the property. I know what it takes to catch these mice, and it works for me. I'm not saying anybody else has to do it their way, but everybody's got some input. Oh, do this. You've got to do this. It's never going to work. I grew up on a farm. I've got all the answers, and it's just kind of silly and
well, it's not the only way that we catch mice either. I set traps. So he likes it better because they fall into a bucket and he doesn't have to touch them and dump them.
Yeah.
I set the traps and
you set how many traps a night? You set probably 10 traps a night, and you're catching what, 3 to 5 a night? Some nights you catch more.
Yeah.
I mean,
they're
like 25 a week,
they're pretty crafty.
We've got a lot of mice around here, and I'm not exactly sure what the increase is this year that's caused that amount of rodentry, but we're trying to aggressively work with them out there so we don't have them inside of our house. I'm not a fan of having mice in the house, and we really don't have any.
So far, we've lucked out on that.
Yeah, we don't have any sign in here, so we've been pretty good. She's doing her job, and I'm trying to contribute as well.
What's really gross, which I didn't know that ants were so interested in dead mice. I had collected all the traps up, and I think I had like 5 mice, and I laid them down to go get the rest of the traps. And then I was going to dump the mice. And when I came back, the ants had just taken over and eaten the insides of those 5 mice. It was disgusting. I mean, in no time at all. It was gross.
Yeah. Yeah. London says, I'll loan you some cats to help with the mice. They're certainly the way to go if you can have, good outside barn cats and such. But we've had so many of them over the years. That's the problem. And they just keep disappearing. They either get eaten by coyotes or, raccoons or skunks or whatever's killing them out there at night. But it's just not, I don't feel good about getting these cats and then having them just disappear. So we got a predator issue. We've got coyotes like just over in that creek right there. Every night we hear them. So they're out there.
We've only had 2 cats that were really good. At night, they would come and sleep up next to the house. And so they lasted for several years. One, just because he was here when we moved in and he was a male cat. So he earned the name Tomcat, and he was great. He caught birds, mice, anything. He wouldn't eat it till you looked at what it was that he had brought. And again, he would sleep up close to the house. And then we had another one who earned the name of No Ears because our dog liked to drag him around. Yeah.
And he chewed his ears off. Yeah. They fell off and he just had no ears.
He looked like Grandpa Munster.
It's pretty cool.
Had the hair just, the puffs of hair sticking out.
Yeah. Yeah. Dean says we've learned so much from our farmers market customers telling us what we need to be growing and doing. Yeah. Isn't that the way, man? People they just have the answers for you, and you try to be as, I guess, non-confrontational in that sense. I try to be not confrontational in the comment section, but sometimes I can't help myself, and sometimes I just get rid of people because I don't want to fucking deal with them. Quite honestly, I don't have the energy for trying to convince somebody who knows better than me when I'm actually the one doing the thing, and then I'm producing content showing the thing. but yet they've got nothing to show. They've only got ideas that, they've created in their head that they haven't done anything with. So I just, again, don't have a lot of patience for that. But yeah, good evening tonight, Dean. So yeah, main topic. Let's talk about this a little bit. And what I wanted to talk about is, I guess, propaganda, because again, I could come on here and just tell you what I've heard from somebody, right? I could read something somewhere and then report that to you, but understand that I'm just repeating something that's coming through somebody else's filter. Years and years ago, this is long before any of us, but before media existed, how did people get their information? How did they get their worldview shaped? Their worldview was shaped by walking out their door and interacting with their community. And that all changed when media became an entity. And it became a very powerful entity, one in which could shape and manipulate people's perceptions of reality. And I think that it's important to understand that most media is a part of propaganda, right? Propaganda gets a really bad rap and a bad name because of the ties to the Nazi regime and Joseph Goebbels and all of the things that went on at that time. And it was changed to public relations by Edward Bernays because he knew that word propaganda came with that sort of baggage. But it's happening every minute of every day in our lives is propaganda. It's coming through somebody else's filter. Unless you were actually there seeing the thing, it's now being transferred from that mediated reality. It's not reality. You aren't there. You're seeing it on a screen through pixels, or you're hearing it over the radio, and you weren't there. So it's a mediated reality that we've come to place our trust in as reality. And it's interesting to me that, it's such a tool for those that want to control the masses to utilize. And if we're not cognizant of that use, if we're not cognizant of what they are doing, both sides, mind you, I'm not talking just about the left. I'm not talking just about one side. It's done on both sides. And so if you don't have that perspective and you don't understand that you're being manipulated to some extent because they want to coerce you into a particular point of view or a mood, or they're trying to get a point across, it's propaganda. And so there's really some key indicators that can help anyone spot propaganda. One of the things is emotional appeal. Propagandists often target emotions rather than rational thought. They may use fear, anger, or pride to influence opinions and behaviors. And now, as I go through these, just think about any of the things that have been going on that you've been hearing in the media and thinking, are they using fear? Are they using things to inflame people and get them angry? That's appealing to your emotions. Another thing that's used, and it's a very, very effective tool, is selective information. And both sides do this. They do it a lot. Because what they do is they may give you 80% of the truth so that it seems completely plausible. You're like, oh yeah, that makes sense. But what they don't do is they don't give you the other 20% that would actually formulate your opinion much differently. They keep out very important details. They give you 80% of the truth, but they keep out that 20, which causes you to get inflamed or angry, or change your viewpoint on the thing. So they only present certain facts, or they distort information to support their agenda by omitting important details or using misleading statistics, right? Sound
This is
familiar?
true.
Sound familiar? Is that ever happened, or you ever see that in the news?
Or they drop off the front and the end to create an answer that's not correct.
Yeah, it's omission. They're
Yeah.
omitting information so that they're leaving something off and they're giving you the whole truth. That happens all the time, both sides.
Mm-hmm.
So another thing is repetition. So repeating a message frequently can make it seem more credible and accepted as truth. One of the ways that they do that, and I know you guys have heard this particular video many times, but does this resonate with you? Have you ever heard this from the mainstream media?
Dangerous to our democracy.
This is extremely 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 dangerous to our democracy.
Yeah. So that, it happens over and over and over, just like that. And when people put together montages like that, it kind of brings it home. And you realize, wow, there's something organized going on here. This isn't like very independent. There's a lot of organization. There's a lot of manipulation of the messaging. And, I think one of the ways that one should look at finding a credible news source was summarized quite well by Tactical Redneck when he said the way he goes about it is he looks for entities that haven't proven themselves to be known liars. And so what's very interesting to me is how when people are exposed in these lies and they're exposed repeatedly, some people just keep going back. They keep going back to that entity. And there's an explanation for that, which I'll get to here in a minute. Another I guess indicator that you can look at is what's called the bandwagon effect. And this technique, it suggests that everybody's doing it, so you should too. It plays to the human desire to be part of the majority, right? Who wants to be on the outside? You want to be a cool kid. You want to be in the club. So it's that look what all these things that are happening. So that's one of the reasons why there's been a very concerted effort by the Harris campaign to show how popular she is by saying, hey, look at our crowd sizes. They're like Donald Trump's. Trump, he's packing stadiums. He's packing arenas, right? And so they actually, from what I understand now, I'm going to take this with a grain of salt. This whole AI generated thing, I've seen it all over TikTok, and I'm not putting it past them that they didn't fabricate the crowd sizes and they used artificial intelligence to make this seem like, oh, hey, look, better get on the bandwagon. You better get on with Kamala, right? That's why polls exist, guys. It's a fucking purpose of a poll. They're meaningless. What they are is to get you on the bandwagon. So you say, oh, wow, look, my side's winning. I better go over there. I want to be with winners. And so it's all this propaganda. The polls, that's all they are, is propaganda. They're meaningless. They don't mean jack shit. What means something is when people go to the polls and they actually count ballots, if it's done fairly. That's what actually matters. But polls are just to get that bandwagon effect deal, right? So here's another one. Name calling and labeling. Using derogatory language to discredit opponents or alternative viewpoints. Does that ever happen? I don't know. Have you ever heard that? I think it happens on both sides.
It does happen on both sides.
But you know who's extremely skilled at it is the left, because that's the only thing that they have to run on is character assassination. They're going to destroy the other side so that, yeah, we suck ass. We're the Democrats. We don't have any policies that anybody likes, but what we have is we're not him. We're not the other side. The other side, they're actually pretty weird.
Room, freedom to tell your kids what they can read. That stuff is weird. They come across weird. They seem obsessed with this.
We're using this fake living room to talk to you about a super weird idea from J.D. Vance.
Yeah, it's not, I mean, it's quite weird.
But what was weird was him joking about racism today and then talking about Diet Mountain Dew. Who drinks Diet Mountain Dew?
On the other side, they're just weird. I mean, they really are.
Some of what he and his running mate are saying, well, it's just plain weird.
Yeah, I think it's so interesting how all of those talking points are so choreographed, right? Whether it's, oh, look, he's a convicted felon, or he's a threat to democracy, or he's a this, or he's a that. And that's how you have people with Trump derangement syndrome. And I'm here to say that kind of thing happens on both sides, but the side where it really, really happens is on one side, because the reason why that's such a problem is because of the institutions that they own. They own the media. They own the mainstream media, the legacy media. They own those entities. In many cases, they own social media. The only one that actually allows more or less free speech is X with Elon Musk. And so thankfully, there's a platform out there where people can go to get somewhat of an unbiased view, which would be X. And that's probably the reason why that came in number one in tonight's poll, was because of X, not because of Facebook, not because of Instagram, or maybe even TikTok. It's probably because of X. And so people want more voices rather than less voices. That's the truth. But one side wants to silence the other side. And the problem with them owning the media, with them owning the education system, with them owning the entertainment industry, with them owning the deep state, it's really quite an unfair battle. And so from the standpoint of the average person, we see that and we're a little dismayed by it. We get tired of being called things like deplorable and clinging to your guns and all this other bullshit that they throw at people. That's what it is. It's name calling and labeling. They're very good at that. Another thing that they're pretty good at, and this goes on both sides, right? This isn't just the one side, is the false dilemma. By presenting only two options, one of which is clearly unfavorable to force a particular choice. And that's where Trump derangement syndrome comes in, right? They've labeled him Hitler. They've said he's a threat to democracy. Biden said that just the other day when he actually came out of his basement and gave a softball interview. He actually said that, if there's not going to be a peaceful transition or whatever, right? Stoking the fear of the electorate rather than being a uniter, as he had said, as they all say when they run for office, right? They say a lot of things, and they're full of shit, most of them. So that begs the question: how do you know who to vote for? How do you know which side is actually telling you the truth? How do you know, Rebecca? I mean, what do you go off of?
Well, when somebody's lying to you and they're constantly lying to you, typically I have found that that particular person that's constantly lying to you is actually talking about themselves. And so I look at it in that way.
Mm-hmm.
There's also body positioning, and there's facial expressions. There's a lot of ways to read a person, and when they're telling you the truth and when they're not telling you the truth. As far as choosing the sides and only having two, I agree with you. They have kind of put you in a position where you're either going to vote for this person or you're going to vote for this person.
Right. So you've got two choices. Here's how I look at it, right? Trump could be full of shit. Why would I vote for that guy? The other side could be full of shit too. Why would I vote for them, right? How I'm going to make my choice about who I'm going to more trust is the person who's actually been consistent in what they've said. They don't vacillate their position from, oh, well, I'm in front of this person or these people. I need to speak, pro-union, or I need to speak, pro whatever. And that's what you see with so many career politicians. And I think the reason why they do that is because the majority of people are disinterested, they're apathetic, they don't pay attention, and half of them are fucking stupid. And so they'll believe anything. They don't actually take the time to sit there and think about things with rationale and say, who hasn't lied to me? Who has been consistent in their messaging? I think Trump's been pretty consistent on all of his messaging. He hasn't flipped at all on the border, on the economy, on energy, drill baby drill, right? On non-interventionist policies abroad. You go down the litany of it, trade, all of it, he's been completely consistent. And then you have another candidate who has said things that are now starting to change because she realizes, oh, I need to run back to the middle and get these people on my side.
But she's had 4 years to do that, and she hasn't.
Well, here's the thing.
Trump,
she hasn't had 4 years to do a goddamn thing because she's the vice president. She's not doing anything. But that's the problem for, I wouldn't say that's the problem. I will say that they need to capitalize on that rather than attacking Harris as this candidate who didn't do anything. They need to attack Biden as what he didn't do and get her to distance herself from him. Because what they're trying to do actually is run out the clock. Their actual worst nightmare, in my opinion, is to have Kamala assume the office before the election. Because then there's another 90 days where she can fuck up, and she will. And then the election's in jeopardy. But what they want to do is they want to run out the clock as much as they can. They want to create this messianic figure like she's Barack Obama, the retelling of Barack Obama, and have her as scripted as possible throughout that entire process. That's why she hasn't done any meet and greets, and she hasn't actually gone out and done any interviews. And the few little interactions she's had, that's all been scripted. They're not going to just send her out there and just like ask her a bunch of questions, throw her to the wolves like they do with other people. They're not going to do that because they have chosen a side, and that's not the media's job. They should not be choosing a side. Now that they've done that and they've exposed themselves for the liars that they are and how biased they are, what are the American people supposed to do? Are we supposed to tune in? Are we supposed to look to them for the news? I think not. That's why people are going to other sources. That's exactly why it's happening. And they are a dying entity. Pretty soon, the mainstream media will be just like PBS. They will be government funded just so that they have a mouthpiece. The deep state has a mouthpiece where they can manipulate the retards who aren't smart enough to think for themselves.
Now, as far as Trump is concerned, I've watched a lot of things way before he was even considering being president. back when he was in his 20s. And I found it very interesting that what he spoke about back then is the exact same thing as what he's saying right now. So his plan has never changed from when he was 20 to now.
He said the same damn thing to Oprah when he was a young, good-looking man when he was like 34 years old. He was saying the same bullshit about we're getting ripped off from China. We're getting ripped off from these people, you know, and he said the same thing. So that is a man of consistency. You might not like his delivery. You might not like a bunch of stuff about him, whatever. I get it. You've got Trump derangement syndrome. You've bought into the propaganda. I understand. But there's no way that you can objectively say that he has not been extremely consistent in his messaging. And so when somebody is actually consistent in what they say, that to me shows that he's a man of his word.
He is. I mean, he does say dumb things here and there.
Who
but
the fuck
I
doesn't?
mean,
Who doesn't?
Right.
Yeah.
So that's pretty easy to overlook. However, the other side really wants to hone in on that and push that point and try to get people to change their minds.
London says the problem is also career politicians 30 to 50 years and never doing anything to help the people they represent. That's entirely 100% true.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I know that many people feel that way. We feel very disenfranchised, that we don't feel that our voices is being actually heard. I feel that way. I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, I'm Joe patriotic thinking I'm going to go down and vote and there's going to be some result that I'm going to be happy with. It's not where I'm at today. And it's because of what I've seen exposed within the system. The system is broken. Let's not be, too rose-colored glasses here. The system is broken. And I think we all know that. So I'm just sounding off a little bit here about it, but.
Right. But you just jumped over, go back.
Okay. Let me see what Joshua has to say. If they're doing a shit job now, why would they do any better with a new term? Yeah. Why not? Why would they?
Exactly. Actually, that was the one I was trying to point out.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. So, where was I before I got kind of sidetracked there? Testimonials and endorsements. Using respected or famous individuals to endorse a message or product, regardless of their actual experience, their expertise on the subject. That happens constantly, right? They're going to roll out this person, or they're going to have a commercial with all these left-wing, Hollywood people. Oh, you need to go out there and vote. You need to do this. Why would I care what the fuck that person has to say, or what, why should they have to go out and tell somebody to vote? Are you that stupid? Are you that disengaged? Are you that don't care about your future? Why do you want people like that voting? It's obvious why they want people like that voting, because they are easily led and they're easily manipulated. Yeah, it's all propaganda. Glittering generalities is another tactic that they use, using vague, positive sounding phrases that appeal to values and emotions but lack specific information. I mean, we could go down a litany of quotes from, Kamala Harris. She's very good at word salad. I won't even say she's good at it. That's pretty much kind of how she's terrible at it.
She is, because she only has a few of them that she continues to repeat over and over and over again.
It doesn't make any sense.
They don't make any sense.
Yeah, actually, somebody who's good at word salad is Gavin Newsom. He's pretty skilled at that. And I find it interesting to be witnessing what I'm seeing right now, where he's out there actually like, hey, we need to deal with this homeless issue, right? And
so
he should have done that years ago, man. But now he's deciding he wants to govern.
I can say something about him that you also see in Obama is when they're talking to you, they give you the sense of being better than you because they talk over you. They look over you instead of eye contact.
I don't get that from Gavin Newsom.
I do.
I get that from Obama. Obama has that nose in the air, like he's fucking better than everybody. I just wish he would have actually had a media that would have rode his ass as hard as they rode Trump, or even half as hard. He wouldn't have been able to hold up to it. If they would have confronted him with the issues in his presidency half as much as what they have done with Trump, he would have fucking folded like a house of cards, because he's very good at sitting before a teleprompter. You know how smooth he sounds, and everybody's like, oh, he's so, he's clean and he smells good and he's storybook, man. You can get up there and read. But when he's actually talking off the cuff, he's very stuttery and, because everything he's saying, he doesn't really believe. He's just trying to make sure that he says the right things. And that's good for some people. They're completely fine with that. Some people are completely good with a puppet like, Kamala Harris, that hasn't received a single vote to be where she's at. And now they're all excited about, her candidacy when she's been a horrid candidate getting to that point, right? She never could have got the nomination. But be that as it may. Another tactic that they use is plain folks appeal, attempting to convince the audience that the propagandist views reflect those of the common person. So I think that's done on both sides, right? They're going to, see Mitt Romney put on a pair of cowboy boots and go to the fucking county fair and put his foot up on a hay bale. Give me a break, dude. You're a fucking clown. Go home. Mitt Romney, that dude just turns my stomach looking at him, but whatever. So let me move into the other part of tonight's main topic, which is looking at, an empire that's declining. How do we know, right? We all see things on a daily basis. Everyone that's going to listen to this broadcast sees things on a daily basis that they are kind of concerned about, whether it's economically or whether it's watching their community change before their eyes and watching the demographics shift because of illegal entry, because of crime. All of the things that we see happening around us on a daily basis has to cause us great concern. And we can, get tied up in the shiny thing of the moment because it's never ending. I find myself sometimes like looking at this stuff and getting wound up about it. But, is that reality? I don't know, because so much of it is being created to give you this sense of urgency or doom and gloom, or this is this, and then the other side says this is that. Well, I think the way to look at it, rather than looking at all the shiny objects that you're going to see every day on TikTok and on Instagram and on fucking YouTube, with all these people telling you the sky is falling, is actually just go out your house and look in your community and see what you see. Look at your gas prices. Are they going up? Is it cost more to put food on your table? Do you have a rise in crime? Do you have a rise in drug issues in your community? Maybe not directly, but look at your surrounding areas, right? You might live in a nice little, small little town, and you're going to walk out and you're going to say, oh, no, this is fine. Well, take it deeper into the city and think, was it like that 10 years ago? Or is it now starting to change? Because as it changes there, guess where it's going to also change? Those people are going to be in your neighborhood. Here's something to think about too, guys. Before we get into this, I just heard from a friend of mine who told me yesterday, he said, hey, man, he said that house they're building right across the street from yours, he says, those folks, he said they got ripped off yesterday or a couple days ago, not yesterday, but a couple days ago, they got ripped off. And I go, no kidding. Now, this is a house that's right at the end of our driveway, right across the street. And somebody went in there and stole a paint sprayer to this new construction house or whatever. And it just goes to show that, hey, we're in a rural area. We're in an area where you would think, hey, I'm pretty safe. And it's not really going to be a problem. But see, it's just that kind of attitude that invites people in who are criminally minded. Because where are you going to go if you're going to go try to catch some fish? Are you going to go to a place that don't have any fish? Or are you going to go someplace where there's actually some fish? And if there's resources in a place and it's not really well kept, there's people driving around that you might not think are looking at your shit but everybody's looking at your stuff. So if you're anywhere close to a road, right, and you don't have a long ass driveway with a locked gate and people can't see your stuff, you might think about just securing your stuff, because things are changing in society. We actually lost our son's
dirt bike.
Yeah, our son's dirt bike got ripped off from here, and we didn't even know it. I got a call from a friend of mine's wife is a sheriff's dispatcher, and she called and she said, "Hey, did you guys lose a dirt bike?" And we're like, "No." And she goes, "Well, we got a dirt bike here that came back to your name. They ran the little off-road sticker, and this dude's a scumbag. You know, he had stolen a bunch of stuff. He apparently came down our driveway. It was probably sitting out someplace.
It was leaning up against the garage outside.
There you go. And so we had some dude come down here and rip us off, and we didn't even know it. And then, you know, of course, we got the dirt bike back and all, but that's, you know, we don't roll like we used to, man. Our shit is locked down at night. It's locked tight. We got a locked gate. Our house is secure, because the last thing I want to do is wake up and have some dude looking at me while I'm in my bed. And that's just the reality of it, man. We used to sleep, you know, with everything open, you know, and I know that, like, I grew up that way out in the country. I grew up that way, that's like, yeah, we don't lock stuff around here. We live in a good neighborhood. Well, where do you think they're going to go to fish? That's all I'm trying to say. So let me, before I get into this, see if I can get caught up on some comments here. I'm way behind. Let's see here. Yeah. London says that the country has been running on 4 flat tires. Does it make sense to continue with Harris and not fix the flats? That's why I said that I think they're missing an opportunity by not going after Biden. They need to go after and say, this is the Biden agenda. This is the Biden-Harris agenda. You're a part of that. And make her distance herself with, oh no, I want to close the border. Well, why didn't you do anything or say anything about it then? Why are you supporting this man who's still the president? By the way, where the fuck is he anyhow? Where is he? What does he do? Any ideas, Rebecca?
He's having ice cream on the beach.
Yeah. It's a weird deal, man. I'm telling you, it's very weird when you think about it. He's not qualified to actually run. They don't have enough confidence in him for that. But, he can ride it out for the next 6 months. Cognitively, he's shot. And yet he's still our president. But he's very disengaged. When there's issues out there right now, everybody wants to know what Harris is going to do. She's not the fucking president. She's the vice president. She's a candidate for office. Vice presidency is meaningless. Let's get it straight. I will say this, though. I'm coming around on JD Vance. I know I was a little hard on the guy, or a little skeptical, I would say. Not hard on him, but I was skeptical just because of the fact he, never Trumper and whatever, and he's kind of an inside, politician. I'm going to be skeptical of anybody who comes from being a politician, I guess. But I will say that he has been I guess a breath of fresh air to hear him handle the media in the way that he's done. He's very skilled at that. I think he's actually probably better than what Ramaswamy would have been able to do, because he's not nearly as confrontational, but he handles them just the same. It's amazing to watch him just flip on them, man. They're trying to draw him into some bullshit, and he just flips it right back around him, goes right into Harris. And this is what she's done, and and it's masterful. And I think, he's doing Trump a good service in that. I think he's a very good advocate. They want to try to make him out to be some weirdo, right? But he's actually very normal, I guess, from his upbringing. And that's what makes him weird to those people. People that live in the Midwest. Guess what? If you're from Kansas and you know what a cornfield looks like in Iowa, you're fucking weird to these people. So I think that's actually a badge of courage and a badge of honor that JD Vance holds as being this weird guy or whatever. But yeah, he's doing some work on the media, man. He's making them look like clowns.
So I agree with Shady.
What Shady say?
He said Gavin Newsom's a slimy car salesman.
Oh, of course. Yeah, he's very good at that, though. He's a very good car salesman.
He's not. He couldn't sell me a car.
Well, not to you or me, because, you know, we know him. But there's so many people, as I said before, that are actually pretty stupid. They're very, like, just disengaged. They've heard all the propaganda about the other side. And so the lesser of two evils is what appeals to them. They believe that he's a racist when nothing that he's ever done or said would indicate as such. Now, on the other hand, if you look at Biden and the things that he has done and the things that he has said.
So creepy.
Yeah, he's gross, man. He's an evil man. We'll put you all back in chains, right? What do you think? What would happen if Donald Trump showed up to a place and said that to a bunch of black people? Gonna put you all back in chains. And they just, that's Uncle Joe. Don't worry about it. You know, we'll just move on. So, anywho, I'm getting going here again. Yeah, I don't know, man. Shady Tree says I agree with your take on JD Vance. Yeah, I may be proven wrong on him. You know, I think he's probably an honorable and a good man, and I don't know if I should ascribe nefarious intent to the guy. I think he's, you know, maybe a legit dude that's not there for the wrong reasons, and that's what I hope. I actually hope that, you know, we have an election that's not corrupted. But I really feel as though that's not going to be the case. There's just too much at stake, and they've shown too much to the American people to not show their hand again, because they showed their hand and then they told you, guess what? That hand that we just showed you, you didn't see that. And if you say that you saw it, we're going to punish you. Yeah, that's super democratic, isn't it? That's democracy. I'm glad they're protecting democracy. You can't even fucking speak your mind without being punished. Yay for democracy. Good job, Joe. Good job, Democrats. But nonetheless, I'm speaking my mind. Yeah. So, yeah, the decline of an empire. I think that's what we have to kind of look at just to see if those signs exist here in our country, right? And so as I'm going through these, just think about it, right? The first is economic troubles. And whether it's a minor or a severe financial crisis, it's a financial crisis with high inflation and a significant gap between the rich and the poor. I kind of somewhat disagree in the sense that I think that there's always been a significant gap between the rich and the poor. What's different is that the middle class is becoming part of the poor. That's the problem. That's the economic trouble, because you're always going to have the very rich and the very poor. But what drives this country is the middle class, the people that get up and take their kids to soccer, the people that go to work and work 2 and 3 jobs to try to make ends meet and do the right things and try to be a part of their community. That's what drives this country. But see, that's what's being attacked by those in power. They don't support you and your voice. They don't, because they don't want your voice to be heard. That's proven every day. Why would they go after a platform like TikTok? Is it because they're owned by China? Well, there's a lot of things in this country owned by China. Why don't they go after that? No, it's because they don't control it. They would love to go after X, right? And they would probably succeed in doing that if it wasn't owned by the richest man in the world, who has fuck you money, essentially. Right? He can kind of do what he wants to do. They're going to go after him at some point, probably because they're not real thrilled with the fact that he's doing an interview with Donald J. Trump, I think about right now. So I'm actually surprised there's anybody listening to us. But yeah, he's doing an interview tonight with Trump. And I'm very interested in hearing that. So I will be catching the replay on that. But yeah, economic troubles is a big one. And I think we've got a lot of economic troubles. I talked about it earlier with gas prices and, cost of food and inflation. Everybody's feeling that. Nobody's really going out to eat dinner, because what happens when you go out to eat dinner? It's going to cost you $100 or whatever it's going to cost you. And it's going to be less than what you used to get, because they're trying to cut costs. So they're giving you a smaller portion of shitty food and charging you more.
Nor will they serve you what you want to eat.
Well, just we don't go out to eat anymore. For one,
I know. I'm joking.
Yeah.
With your new diet.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I've been eating good.
I get to be the chef.
I've been feeling good. So I'm glad for that. But yeah, political corruption and instability is another sign and symptom, right? Political corruption and instability. Think about that one. So widespread corruption, ineffective leadership, and frequent changes in government can erode trust in institutions. With political infighting and power struggles are also common. Does that sound at all familiar to what we just witnessed in Biden being removed from office or being removed from being a candidate? Huh? Do you think?
I still say Biden is creepy.
Well, he is, but that's not what I was asking. So
he's completely incapable of doing his position. It's been a long time since he's been capable of doing it.
Right.
And he does very inappropriate things to small children that are on TV.
Yeah, well, it should really call into question for everybody to ask who is actually running the government. We've all been, I think, wondering that to some extent. Things seem to keep happening, right? The wheels haven't come off yet, but who's actually running things back there? Well, it kind of came a little bit clearer when we saw the power players come together and say, hey, Joe, you got to go, right? I suppose there was a meeting between the House or the Speaker of the House or Nancy Pelosi. She's no longer the Speaker, but, Pelosi and then Obama, right? And then there's some other power players in the Democrat Party that, they said, hey, it's time.
So this question, because I was listening to PBD, and he actually asked Ice Cube this question. And his response was, well, BlackRock, Vanguard, they're who's running the government.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of truth in the fact that they hold a lot of cards, man. They own just about everything, those people. So that's why all of the DEI shit is being shoved down the throats of corporations, and some corporations are going along with it willingly. Others are finding out, hey, you know what? This just doesn't fit our business model, because the people that are buying John Deere tractors and going to Tractor Supply and drinking Bud Light, they don't buy into this bullshit, and it's kind of affecting our bottom line. So they're rolling it out now, but guess what? It'll be back. This isn't going anywhere. We haven't won the battle here. This is just them sticking their toe in the water and seeing that, oh, people don't really like this, like with this whole Harley Davidson thing or whatever. And, NASCAR and all these places that all these, middle American people kind of look to go spend their money. We're going to hit them as well. And they're not over. So, anyhow, I see that I've got a bunch of comments here that I haven't looked at. Yeah, we are in a serious pickle, says London. Dominion voting machines, mail-in ballots, and no ID in-person voting. Yeah, I don't know how this is going to be different, guys. I really don't. I wish it was. And I think that there's a lot of people who are probably going to be like volunteering and all of that. But you don't think they've got their volunteers lined up too? The Democrats are the best at organizing. They're just so skilled at it because they've been cheating for years. They've been doing it for years, man. And they just got an advantage in that regard. I think conservatives look at things like, oh, well, we'll do it the right way. We'll just We'll get them next time. We'll pay our taxes and just, not raise a ruckus or whatever. Those people will burn down cities and they'll have no problem doing it. And then the politicians will say, we need to bail those people out of jail. Or you know what? You need to do more. You need to get in their face. They need to. So they're very good at that, man. I don't know. I don't know how this is going to turn out, but we'll find out very soon. I'm not optimistic, I should say. Unfortunately, I wish I had better news.
You do. Our chicken's laying fabulous eggs.
Oh yeah, she brought me this chicken. I thought, hey, we're doing our 75th thing. Maybe she's going to do something nice for me. You know what she does? She brings me this damn chicken egg. Check this thing out. Look at that. Look at that chicken egg. That was from a full-grown Novagen. 38 grams. When they typically lay anywhere from 65 to 70 something grams.
38. It was 28.
28. You're right. I did. 28 grams. So anyhow, let's see here. England is a mess. I haven't really been paying attention to the England thing, what's happening over there. Imagine going to jail because you posted your opinion on what is going on with the riots. I did see somebody on TikTok, being accosted from the police. So they're saying, you posted this or you said this or whatever. And they're trying to arrest people over that. I guess that's what happens when you're in a society where you don't have the right to bear arms. That's coming here, guys. That shit is coming here. What we're talking about tonight, it ain't going to last. It ain't going to last because I'm too opinionated. And I'm saying the things that they don't want people saying. And this will come back at some point to be a problem. But that's fine because I have a voice and I feel like it's my obligation to actually exercise my voice. More so out of just therapy for myself, if nothing else. And I think that the more people that would do that, the better this country would be. Because if you don't, what we'll have the next time is we'll have a bunch of people walking around in airports. They're all wearing these things across their face. And then you hear this announcement every 30 seconds. Please social distance. Please make sure you have your face covered. You know how fucking creepy that was for me? I didn't wear that shit. I'm telling you, I did not. Because I was defiant. That's like somebody telling me what to think doing that. It makes no sense. I'm not doing shit that don't make sense. I'm a free man. See the hat? That's what it says. I'm telling you, man, it's nuts when people just are so compliant. And that's what I saw over the past 3 years. Just so many sheeple. It just blew my mind. But anyhow. Willow Rock says, I am still banning certain stores over mask mandates and how they treated me when I walked in. Yeah, vote with your dollars, man. I mean, nobody's telling you to have to go to a place and spend your money. And I think, that's really the only real true voice that you have to make that sort of change is by economically withholding your funds and spending them with people you actually support. And supporting local entities and supporting entities that make sense to you. So, I definitely agree with you. Let's see here. Joshua says, why should you get up in the morning and try when they give everything to the poor, showing the wealth, right? Why should anyone try when they just tax? They're pushing the middle class out. Well, they are pushing on the middle class because the middle class is the most of the middle class is a threat to them. The poor isn't a threat. They've already got them in the bag. They're going to give them universal basic income and, all of the other things that they've promised to people. The middle class is the only ones that have the ability to rise up and do their own thing and to provide any level of opposition. That's why they're pushing hard. But to answer your question, why should you get up? You should get up because that's your job. That's your duty as a human being, is to fight and to not give up to anyone. I mean, we all have our own things that drive us from day to day. You know, I know what drives me, and I'm not going to use or allow what they do to take that drive away. We all have our own thoughts and our own minds, and that's something that's sovereign in all of us. And so whatever it is that motivates you to get out of bed, to do the things you do, that's what should motivate you, is having that sovereignty. But to roll over and say, well, they're just going to do this.
Then they won. They've
totally won. That to me is like saying, well, why wipe your ass because you're just going to shit tomorrow? Right?
I'm not going to say.
Well, I mean, that's kind of crass. That's crass, but it's the truth. You know, why wash your car? It's just going to get dirty. It's the same as saying that. So I don't know. I feel strongly about that. Military overreach is another one. Excessive spending, excessive military spending, and overextension of the military forces can drain resources and weaken the abilities or the empire's ability to defend itself. Well, we are a little overextended right now. If there were some other major conflict that we needed to engage in, I think we would be completely overextended, right? If we had something that was major between another serious threat, I don't mean like, hey, we're going to go in and bomb Grenada or do some military skirmish, but I mean, if there was some shakedown with China or Iran or another country, that a group of countries, we're far extended over what we should be. But, you know, that's what drives the economic engine of our government, is military spending. And our ability to go out and to drop bombs on other people to see how those weaponry actually work. It's our test ground. We don't have to bomb on our own soil. We can sell those arms to Israel. We can sell those arms or give them to Ukraine. We haven't sold them a damn thing because we're giving them money. But we can use that as a testing ground to go kill people and see how it works. That's what we do, man. We're good at that. So I don't know if we're actually that overextended, right? But we are definitely weakened if we were to have another conflict. Social decay. Is that sounded like anything that we've seen in our immediate future in the last 10 years? If you look at society as a whole, declining public services, increased crime rates, and a breakdown in social cohesion, those are all indicators of a rise in internal conflicts. And, you know, obviously civil unrest can occur from all of that sort of thing, right? We've seen that over the course of a number of years. We've had civil unrest and, you know, all of that. But I think we're seeing more of it right now. That's just my take. Another indicator would be environmental degradation. So how they define that is overexploitation of natural resources, deforestation, and pollution can lead to environmental crisis that can further strain the empire. I think that that's one area that we're really not at risk. I think the United States is probably the leader in the world as far as protecting its natural resources and protecting the environment. I think we kind of go over and above what's necessary. I am an advocate for protecting, you know, clean air, clean water, all of that, but not at the expense of humanity. I'm not like a leftist who's so committed to the idea of the Green New Deal and you know, wind and solar and all of that, right? Mm-hmm. I'm all about that, wind and solar, but I'm also all about fossil fuels and nuclear energy and coal and, all of the things that we have available to us. I think we should utilize those resources, not to the extent we overuse them, but we're not at that point yet. But I think environmental degradation isn't something that I see in this country as a problem.
You don't think cow farts are driving us down?
No, I don't.
I don't either.
No. Cultural and intellectual decline, a loss of creativity, innovation, and intellectual vigor can accompany the decline. It might be reflected in a stagnation of cultural and scientific achievements. So that's, if you think about it, there's a lot of truth in that, because United States government really doesn't innovate anything. If you look at all the innovations that are out there right now, they're coming from people like Elon Musk or Bill Gates or, take your pick of any of the people that have achieved something greater, right? And it's not coming from government. Government's good at contracting with people who know what they're doing. They get a lot of government contractors. But as far as the people that are actually in government, they're really not that good at doing anything from the standpoint of scientific achievement. That's all being done in the private sector. And so I think that there has been an intellectual decline in this country. And then I think what do we got here? Lastly is external pressures. So what are we talking about with external pressures? Invasions, external threats, and competition from rising powers can exacerbate internal weaknesses. So yeah, would you say that the southern border, we've been invaded?
I would definitely say we've been invaded.
Right.
But not only have we been invaded, they're welcoming it. They're allowing it to happen. There's no fight back.
Yeah, they're certainly encouraging it. They are certainly encouraging it. So I think when you go down the list of all of those indicators for a societal decline, for a collapse of an empire, and that all came from me asking ChatGPT, what are the signs of a declining empire? And that's what it came up with. And then when I started looking at those and thinking about how that compares to what I've seen in our own society, that's how I determine who's telling me the truth and who's not with regard to the media. Because the media is going to tell you what they want you to see based on the propaganda that they've prepared for you. But you have to actually be the person who's willing to go out and look at society with your own eyes, just like we used to do before that mediated reality became part of our lives. It's part of all of our lives. Whether it's a billboard that you see driving into town, whether it's something you hear on the radio, whether it's, a podcast that you're listening to like this is just somebody else's perspective. So that's fine. Take it for a grain of salt. But I think so many people don't take things with a grain of salt, and they don't sample the different things that are out there and say, this isn't really making that much sense, even though they've told me that, if you get the thing, you won't get the thing. Oh, maybe you should go get the thing again. You ever thought about boosting the thing? You know what I'm talking about, right?
Oh, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Okay. And there's so many people that just didn't even they just sucked it up. They're like, I guess I'll just go get the thing, because they said, if I get the thing, you won't get the thing.
And then they get it anyway.
Oh, good Lord.
But yet they still go back for the booster. That is mind blowing.
Yeah. Build back better. Yeah, there's some propaganda for you, man. It's all propaganda. Hope and change, make America great again, right? That's all propaganda. Is that ever going to happen? I don't know, but it's a way to coerce and influence you to do a particular thing. That's all propaganda is. It could be propaganda to get you to buy a pair of shoes that you don't need, or, oh, look at this, you need to eat this. This is going to make you healthy. And it's bullshit, but people will buy it because they think, oh, this influencer's doing this, so therefore I need to do it too. Instead of people like actually doing their own research and going, maybe I should like read the label for myself instead of just going, oh, they said if I do this, it'll make me, whatever. That's propaganda, man. It doesn't have to be political propaganda. Propaganda goes across it all. So build back better. You betcha, baby. The third biggest war chest at 13 trillion. I'm assuming you're talking about the United States war chest. We're good, man. I mean, we've got a pretty strong military. I think economically, there's a lot for this country to have to absorb before it totally collapses. But they've been absorbing and offsetting that collapse by just printing more money, which is inflating the monetary supply. It's inflating everybody's fucking earnings. So I don't know. When's it going to happen? Who knows? I think all we can do is just keep trying to do better, trying to do better. Don't you agree, Rebecca?
I do agree.
Mm-hmm.
Take care of yourselves, worry about yourselves and your family.
Yep.
And make your surroundings strong.
Yeah. Brian Palmer's chiming in, says January 6th was a great example of conservatives doing things the right way. I think for the most part, that's how it played out. I mean, obviously I was kind of in shock and dismay when I saw what was really taking off there toward the end. And I have to be honest, I've never watched it again because it was so kind of like fucking upsetting to see that. I've never wanted to watch any of the replays to that. I just I'm over that. I don't like seeing that kind of stuff happen. And I don't know. But that's the threat, right? The threat is like, hey, we're not okay with what we've seen here. We want to, have our grievances heard, but they weren't about having anybody's grievances be heard. They had already made up the mind that this is the direction we're going. And when you have all of those other entities aligned with you, the legislature, right? The judiciary, what are you going to do? There's nothing you can do other than turn to violence. And I don't really think that that's the solution at that point. But I don't know.
It's a fairy egg.
What is a fairy egg?
This is a fairy egg. Actually, I've been talking to the roosters out there, and I keep saying our egg production would grow if they would start laying eggs too. So I think this is their attempt.
Oh, good Lord. Yeah.
This is all they could muster up.
Oh, that is not cool. He's getting butchered tomorrow. I'm telling you, man. It's a she, her. Yeah. It's here. BlackRock's war chest. BlackRock's war chest. Yeah, I don't know about that, but yeah, I guess. Fentanyl. Yeah, there's a lot of crises that, should be of high concern for politicians and people, but they just look the other way, they don't really care that much about people until it somehow affects them. But, what's to say that all of this isn't just a part of what they did years ago with, drug tests on people, using psychotropic drugs on people, unwilling participants. I mean, they could easily be just allowing this to come in to see what the effects are going to be on people. Meanwhile, it's helping with population control. I don't put anything past these people, man. I just don't. I guess that makes me a conspiracy theorist. The ones destroying stuff were agent provocateurs at January 6th. Most of them were walking like it was a museum. Yeah, I saw that. I saw that there was, there wasn't like they were going in there smashing the place. They were like, hey, look at me. I'm in the,
I'm in the White House, in the Oval Office.
Yeah. Well, no, they weren't in the White House. It was in the Capitol.
Capitol. Sorry.
Yeah.
I'm in the wrong place.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, it's pretty sad to see how that all played out. I hope something like that doesn't happen again. quite honestly. But, anyhow, that's kind of the main topic for tonight. I did want to touch on a did you know, because I think there's some interesting things along these lines. So just check this out.
Still used today and where they originated from. In the 18th century, portrait artists often charged based on the complexity and amount of detail required in their work. Including a subject's full body, particularly the arms and legs, significantly increased the time and effort needed to complete the painting. Consequently, portraits that featured these details were much more expensive. This practice led to the expression, cost an arm and a leg, which now describes anything that is extremely expensive. In the 16th century, a common method of slaughtering animals involved suspending them from a beam while standing on a bucket. When the bucket was kicked away, the animal would be left hanging. This grim process became associated with the end of life. Thus, the phrase kick the bucket came to be a euphemism for dying. In medieval carpentry, precise workmanship was essential for creating sturdy structures and functional items. A carpenter's skill was often judged by their ability to drive a nail squarely into place with a single strike. Achieving this level of accuracy meant the work was done correctly and efficiently. This practice gave rise to the phrase hit the nail on the head.
Yeah, those are kind of fun. It's interesting how those phrases from the past, you just don't realize where they originated from, but they're still something that are very much a part of our, our dialect here in this country. People use those phrases quite frequently, but it's kind of interesting. Again, with the whole idea that, this was an insurrection, that goes to what I was talking about earlier with regard to propaganda. By pinpointing on something, making it a target, and keep repeating that thing over and over and over. It wasn't anything like an insurrection, but that was a convenient a term to throw out there, because legally, if that were to have been an insurrection, obviously that would be a huge problem, but it wasn't that. And, Steve Archer says, how could most armed citizens in the world show up unarmed? How could the most armed citizens in the world show up unarmed? I don't think there's anything wrong with people showing up, that were armed, but I don't know if there was anything there that really warranted them using their arms. That's the difference, right? And we don't need to use our arms unless, it's an absolute last resort in defense of life. But, maybe other people have a different take on that. Maybe they think that the arms are there for you to, make your voice heard in a different way. So I don't know. But I don't think that people shouldn't have been there. They should have been there if they have the right to carry. But let's see. Willow Rocks, DC and Chicago did have a new law. You couldn't carry in city limits. Not surprising. Not surprising at all. The normal folks who think CNN, Fox, MSNBC tell them the truth or the real problem. Maybe they're just not there yet. I used to listen to Fox and, think, hey, they're giving me some good information. And then, after a period of time, you start kind of changing your viewpoints on things. And I had to change my viewpoints on where I get my information from and how I filter it into my, understanding of everything around me, and I think there's just a lot of people that aren't there yet, or maybe will never get there. They don't want to actually do any amount of legwork to say, does this make sense? To weigh it like, hey, what's really going on here? Why is this occurring? I think there's a lot of people that are just lazy. They just want somebody else to tell them, hey, this is what's going on. And then they lap it up and then they repeat that without having any understanding about where it came from and if it's even fucking true. And it's even harder now to to trust the sources because of artificial intelligence. When I see things, I'm just kind of almost always like, is that like, can I believe that? Because they can create just about anything with AI, as we've been seeing float around on the internet with them trying to embellish. If that's actually true, it may be somebody just making that up, or it may be that the Harris campaign actually decided, hey, let's put out these photos where she's got thousands of people that don't exist. I actually have another video that I could have shown where it shows them walking off the plane, right? Air Force One, where there's nobody there. It's like 4 of them walking off the plane. And then, or it's Air Force Two, right? And then somebody like clicks a button and it bing, it brings in all these people and they're all waving and, waving and crowd noise and everything. And you're thinking, they can do that, huh?
But isn't there no reflection of those people in the plane?
There is, but you know how things can easily be manipulated. There's Photoshop for everybody. Everybody has the ability to do anything with, doctoring stuff. So, I mean, again, I saw it just as you saw it, but am I going to sit here and say, oh yeah, that's a fake? How do I know it's not created by somebody on the right that's saying we want to make her look like a fucking clown?
She does that all by herself.
I know she does. And I'm not giving her that much of the benefit of the doubt. I think that they probably did do that because they are not that popular. They need to create that imagery so that it's plausible that she's actually winning or she could win. And that's all they need to set up. And then all the rest of the ballots and drop boxes and all of that's going to come into play. And it'll just be what it is. And people need to be able to prepare themselves for that,
What is her famous saying? Let's make what can be what should have been, or something like that. I don't know.
Something stupid.
Something similar to
Something
that, though.
Stupid. Yeah, see here, man. Steve Archer, what's up, man? Says, always great to see you guys live. Came for the chicken, stayed for the common sense. Good night from Chicago. Right on, man. Chicago's in the house. I love it. Chicago is a place we went to one time.
Oh my.
No, it was cool, man. I went to Chicago and I was like, let's go to this rib place, man. They got ribs and it's supposed to be this highly rated thing, and it was in this like fucking hood, man.
I think I was the only white person.
Oh yeah. Yeah, no, it was kind of sketchy. And I'm like, this is kind of not cool. I'm not feeling too comfortable around here, but they did have some good ribs and tips and stuff. So I was cool with it. But yeah, Chicago is kind of an interesting place, man. A lot of crime in that city.
I do have to agree. The ribs were really good. It's the first place that I've ever gone to. It's like walking into a closet.
Mm-hmm.
You walk up to the window, you order, and you have to hold your receipt.
Oh yeah,
because the food comes around on
like
a little turntable to another window, and they call out your number. And if you don't have that receipt that's got that number, they don't give you your food.
Yeah, let's see here. What do we got here, Willow? NASA called out. What is it here? NASA called out over their Mars photos. They were using an orange filter. CO2 atmosphere aren't orange. Yeah, I don't know, man. I kind of want to believe some of that shit is like fake or whatever, but I just try not to get too wrapped up in those like conspiracies, like, because I've seen things from both sides and it's just like, I don't know if I want to even bother worrying about, did we land on the moon or didn't we land on the moon? It just is what it is, man. I don't want to waste my time looking at like, oh, look at the flag. It's like doing this or it's doing that, or the woman's jumping up in the thing and her hair's not moving right or whatever. You don't have more fucking important things to do with your life than look at that and argue about whether we landed on the moon. It doesn't really matter, quite honestly. It mattered to them at the time. So we could say we did it before the Russians or whatever, but it don't matter to me. It doesn't matter to you. What do you get out of going to the moon or what's up there or whatever, man? So anywho, but so I got one more thing here, clip of the week, and this kind of summarizes most of what we've been talking about tonight, which is information, the media, and propaganda. And I think probably most people in here might not have a problem with this video, but there may be some people that listen to this that are, either moderate or maybe come from the left-wing perspective, or maybe there's some actual, leftists in here that might listen to this, and it might trigger them to see Donald Trump. So what I would like them to do is when Donald Trump's name is mentioned, or you see Donald Trump, put your favorite liberal in that position. So maybe instead of them saying Trump, when they say Trump, just think Obama, or think Kamala, or think Jimmy Carter, or LBJ, or any liberal that you want in here for president. But this guy, his name's Andrew Bustamante, and he's an ex-CIA agent. And I've listened to a bunch of his stuff. He's pretty interesting to listen to, man. And the reason why he's not with the CIA anymore, so he says, is that the CIA wasn't too family friendly. And so he and his wife were both agents in the agency, and they wanted to start a family, and they approached the CIA about it. And the CIA was like, yeah, we ain't having that. You're going to have to pick and choose. So they chose to quit the CIA and start a family. So good on them. But this dude, I've seen him on a bunch of different, long form interviews and stuff. And if you ever get a chance to listen to this dude, it won't be probably a waste of your time. He's pretty informative, and it kind of gives you a little bit of insight into the three-letter agency CIA. But he had this take on our electoral process. And so I wanted to play this for you. This is the clip of the week. And again, if you have Trump derangement syndrome, put your favorite liberal in place of the word Trump.
People want to hate Donald Trump. Donald Trump is the closest thing to how our presidential policy or process was supposed to work since the forefathers themselves, because he's not a professional politician. He is a business person who is stepping out of business to sacrifice 4 years of his life in office, and then he's supposed to leave and go back to contributing to business. That's how our country was built. That's what the forefathers wanted. They wanted successful business people, successful entrepreneurs, and everything else. They wanted them to be successful in their career, run for office, win the election, represent the people's needs for a term limit, and then step out of office and go right back into their job. That's how it was supposed to work. We f***ed that system up, dude. We, the American people, have to take some freaking ownership of how f***ed up our government is. As long as you have a professional politician, you'll never have term limits, because a professional politician can't put a term limit in place because it terminates their career. So how are we going to get there? You and I have to vote people into office who will get there and vote for term limits, because when we don't pay attention, we're just entrenching the current process more and more.
So again, there's nothing there that I have any disagreement with, and I would actually like somebody who was a leftist come on and dispute what they don't like about what that person just said, and they can obviously put their favorite liberal in place of Trump. I don't know what about what he said isn't how our process is supposed to work. And that, he said that we fucked it up. Well, I guess in a sense we have, but I don't really know, quite honestly, what the answer is, because we've got a government that is fairly unresponsive to the people and their needs and their wants. And we get this promise that we're going to vote people in, but when they get there, they get corrupted by what's within. And so I don't really know how you actually turn that around, other than to say that, we just try to do our best as people who want to live our lives, law abiding and follow the rules as they've, kind of been laid out. I'm somebody who wants to live in a society that's civil. And I don't want to see mayhem and, civil unrest. But I think, unfortunately, the way things have been set up, it kind of leads us down that road. And so, again, I just want to say thanks for everybody hanging out with us and sticking with us. And the reason why we're still here after 75 episodes is because you guys come and you hang out with us. and
Absolutely.
and listen to our BS. So,
Did you see what London said?
Yeah. You mean like the moon astronauts talking to the president on a rotary phone? Yeah. I don't know, man. There's some holes in a lot of the things that are out there, and it's pretty easy to go down the conspiratorial, avenue. And I don't know. I don't know if I have the energy for it. It's sometimes fun to entertain all of those different thoughts. It certainly helps to kind of frame and shape the way you think about things in the world. But one thing I do know is that it would be nice to get to the bottom of some of the things that, a lot of people probably have questions about. One of which was, we just had a president nearly killed. And that seems to have taken a kind of a back seat to everything that's happening this week.
Isn't that crazy? If that was, say, Obama, we would still be talking about it.
Well, I think it's not as much about Obama as it is about the fact that, Trump's not somebody who's part of the deep state. He's on the outside, and that's one of the reasons why he's been such an absolute threat and a target for people that are on the inside, left and right. And so, I don't know. I wish the guy well. I hope that, nothing happens untoward, but I certainly don't think this is over. And they certainly don't seemingly want to get to the bottom of what took place. I think it's interesting that you have a guy who we know very little about in this Thomas Crooks. We haven't heard much about what he was into, his affiliations. We haven't heard a lot of people coming out talking about, hey, I worked with this guy, or I did this, or I did that. We haven't been hearing a lot of that kind of banter. And I think you would hear that if this was somebody who they wanted to say, maybe he was a white supremacist, or he was a separatist, or he was somebody who was an ardent supporter of something that they wanted to target. You'd see a lot, and you'd hear a lot more about this person. But it's just kind of a weird thing to me that it's all of a sudden just not really part of anything anybody's talking about. But again, something to think about, right?
Mm-hmm.
Anyhow, guys, I think that we're going to get out of here because we've got dinner to eat, and we're going to try to get in bed at a reasonable hour. We're adults now. We can't stay up and party like we used to. We can't be up till 9 p.m. We've got to be taking our Metamucil and getting into the sack. We're old people now, so just cut us some slack. But anyhow, thanks, guys.
All right, I'm going and getting my hair colored tomorrow.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks for joining us, guys. And don't forget, if you want to catch the rebroadcast anytime in the future, check us out over at Spotify, Porterhouse and Teal Live. Until then, we'll see you next time.
It's always great to see you guys.
Good night.